Hello and welcome to today's Facebook Live. And I want to start out with a story that hit me this morning.
Tell me.
So just on Monday, a 25-year-old young Swiss guy went and killed 5 people because he was so jealous that he kind of lost his senses.
In Switzerland. Okay.
Including his 19-year-old girlfriend and her family. And I think the reason why it hit me so hard was because the same day we had a 25-year-old turning up at our doorstep seeking help. And he was also not in his right mind, right? So according to Quantum, this is happening for a reason, right? And the reason why it's happening is actually benevolent. We have to trust that even in great tragedies like that, there is some good intention there that wants to be uncovered. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's very hard to sometimes, from our standpoint of view, to see the good in what we see as the bad. But there's the rule in quantum that the bad serves the good. So what we need to understand also that the spirit, which is a true essence, does not consider the body as that important because it can choose from different many bodies. So the spirit may decide that you'll be part of an experiment to serve a bigger experiment. So that's one. But from our standpoint of view, we see suffering, we see pain, we see loss. We have to deal with it. But from quantum, nothing is lost, nothing is gained. There's always a balance. I think that's one thing we need to make peace with.
Yeah, I agree with you. And at the same time, you know, what is it like for that mom and dad? They turned up the day after this young guy had turned up on our doorstep in the morning and came with his son and said, Joy, this guy wants to talk to you because he's of the opinion you're the only one who can help him. So when something like that turns up in my life, I take a real good, strong look at what's happening and also ask myself the question, how can I be of most use? How can I be best of service right now? And what's the best thing to do? So I uncovered a spiritual law that I reread again that helped me understand and cope with this. Because here's the truth. That mom, that dad who had to come with their 25-year-old who was no longer himself, they were struggling and suffering just as much as he was, right?
Absolutely.
So what's the point of that? And how can we make that load, that burden we might all be carrying in a different way? You know, we all have our own challenges. How can we make that lighter? And how can we use the laws of quantum to lighten that burden and to feel that life can be also easeful, even if it's tough right now?
And I think just because some people may be mixed between spirituality and quantum. So let's just define really shortly what is quantum. Quantum is basically looking at the immaterial world. So for the material world, we have the Newtonian laws. They're very pretty straightforward, and you know, everything in matter is following those laws. But the moment you go from matter to, let's call it antimatter or immaterial world.
So from particles to wavelengths.
Then those laws don't work anymore, and the scientists go crazy. Einstein even called it spooky because the left brain cannot understand it. So that immaterial world has laws, and from that laws we get the governing of the material world. And now most people believe that the quantum laws don't apply to the material world, but you have to see it as a thing of energy. To move matter will take more energy, and we're not yet trained, most of us, that we can influence matter. But with the right training, it is possible to levitate, to move matter, just with your mind. So
I love how you're talking about levitating right now.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a more useful life. No, let's levitate, right?
Let's go there.
Okay, so I think
it's just to understand that matter, because the beliefs are more against us, because we think this is real, it takes much more training to overcome the illusion of reality in order to influence. But actually the same laws appear is applied to matter as well, but we're still not there yet with all of us.
So I'm actually hearing you say, whether you believe in it or not, quantum is literally ruling your life. And I think
everything around it.
And where we're coming from is we want you to know that, and we want you to understand that it's not science up here that's really hard to understand. Actually, I loved how Joe Dispenza put it just last weekend. He explained it so well, how we cannot, with the repetitive thought patterns that we are usually in, with all those habits that we have running us the whole time, expect that we'll be able to create something new, something out of the box, if we're inside the box the whole time, pushing matter through this time, instead of accepting that we are all energy and we have wavelengths that we're sending out, and a big wavelength sender and receiver is what? The brain, right? So we need to control and master our brain and know how to use it so that we can actually tap into the quantum field and make these laws work for us.
Absolutely. What he said beautifully, for me, that was really an eye-opener. It's not the mind that controls reality, but the body. The body has been so conditioned that it starts behaving like the mind. Basically.
We can get confused.
And we get confused because it's not our mind, it's the body has been programmed over and over and over, and it's keep recreating the past. And what's interesting, if this is you, so the past is projected in front of you and it's coming to you, so it keeps you in a loop of sending out the past in the future, and you keep meeting your past, basically.
So who of you feel sometimes kept in a loop? Did you have those moments when you realize, oh my goodness, here we go again? I've experienced this before, maybe hundreds of times, right? And that's what you're referring to. You said that the body defines the mind. I am not so sure about that. I think
the body behaves like the mind.
That's
so we
right,
start
yes.
thinking that it's our mind, but it's the
Conditioning
auto
of
habit
the
of the body looks like the mind.
Who of you know those moments when you're driving somewhere and then you realize, oh my God, I'm going to my old house or my old work where I actually should be going somewhere else? I would say that's the elephant minding, right? The elephant knows one way. It's the most effortless way. It's the way we know best. So we'll just do it the same way again. And I noticed that brushing teeth. We start on one side, we'll go the other side. We do the same things the whole time. And then get so surprised when we're stuck in a pattern.
Absolutely.
So here's to pattern shifting and opening doors inside of your mind and body so that you can access the quantum field. So we promised the spiritual law that we want to kind of tie this all into to explain quantum in one way. And there are many, many different ways to explain quantum. So one law of spirituality is the law of least effort. Okay, what is the law of least effort?
First of all, let me correct you. It's not spirituality, it's quantum.
Okay, we'll call it quantum.
It's used interchangeably. So in quantum is that everything is moving at the exact perfect speed. Everything is going with the least amount of effort to create the biggest effect. So that's a quantum law. That's why I'm saying in spirituality there's a lot of crossover, because a lot of quantum laws are in spirituality, but it's a true scientific law that everything, the whole space, all the galaxy are moving with the least effort at the right speed. So everything is, in other words, perfect as it is. There's no energy lost. That's the beauty of it.
Of quantum, right?
Yes, of quantum. And some of that also Newtonian laws. If water is going, it always goes down, never up. It looks for the way of the least effort.
Unless it's in the fountain.
Exactly.
So the law of least effort means do less and achieve more. And that is all about, and I think my own son explained this so beautifully to me in one of our last conversations. He said, Mom, it's so simple. If we have a multiverse, right? If this is a quantum universe, then we have all these parallel timelines and realities. It's infinite, right? So size doesn't really matter because size is only perceivable by comparing it to something else. So this whole idea that we have to have, I don't know, the biggest house, the biggest car, the biggest platform, the biggest following is actually irrelevant, because in quantum, what counts more? It's the level of impact you make. Think of like Bruce Lee. I am not afraid of the man who knows 1,000 kicks. I'm afraid of the guy who's practiced one kick 1,000 times. It's impact. And impact we can make as a mosquito, or as a Roy, or as a Joy, or as a Julia, or Anita, or Johanna. We all can make impact. It's about knowing the right time, right? And then the right move, the right thing to do. So in the law of least effort, there are three components that make this law really understandable and get this all tied up. Okay, so
and just one little thing, because you just inspired me now.
You did? Awesome.
It's like, because if you think about it, some people are totally not seeing the impact. There's a lot of impact you cannot see. So for example, you're educating a child, you give him certain beliefs, a certain support, certain love, and this child becomes the next Nelson Mandela. So that impact that you had on this child was not be able to be perceived in that moment. And let's say you give to someone, you do not know the impact of what it can have. There's a ripple effect that continues. And it's another way to look at it is called the so-called butterfly effect.
Yes.
That a little change somewhere can ripple all over the planet. And this all comes back to this law.
And that's, I think, why we care so much about our teachings, is that we're all about showing you just how much impact you are making and how important you are for this quantum universe to work. You're a puzzle piece, and we need that puzzle piece.
Absolutely.
So component number one is, you want to write this down, acceptance. If you're a star student, you will now write down, I know this moment is as it should be. Acceptance. I know this moment is as it should be.
Which hits immediately a nerve.
A few, I think. A few.
Because, there's so much resistance because we come from separation. So we judge this is good or this is bad. And in quantum, there is no separation. One of the things that for most people are not very clear is that the bad is serving the good. Let's say you're very naive in relationships. Someone abuses you. So the one that's being abused either learns a lesson and grows, and because of that, prevents something bigger on the way. So that person that was abusing you was preventing you to be abused by something much bigger than that person.
So the abuser becomes the teacher.
Exactly. So it was not good or bad. It might just be the lessons you needed moving forward. So the moment we judge, we believe, we're looking through our eyes what we see, that's the reality, and then we have an opinion about it, and that creates a separation because everything is happening in the right moment for the right reason. Exactly. And if we can accept that,
what then?
Then we create peace. Because if there's no peace, we are losing energy in the, let's call it the resistance, the fight, the judgment. And when we lose energy, we're taking away from our focus and energy of creating what we want.
I'm going to tie it into Joe Dispenza again.
Sure.
Remember how he explained in such a beautiful way how we keep spending our energy so frivolously, watch out with the cable. And when we, for instance, get up in the morning, some people, right, I've heard, can get up and the first thing they do is they get on their phone and they check their Instagram and they check their Facebook and they check their emails and they check their texts and then they check the news and then they get up and they automatically brush their teeth and then they go and call, they're out there.
Right.
And when we're spreading ourselves out there, where is the energy least?
Inside.
Right? So it's hardly surprising that we feel spent after a day like that, because we've never even taken a moment in the present moment. And in a moment, we'll explain to you why the present moment is so important. So let's move on to component number 2. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we have acceptance. That's one thing that we need to be able to follow this beautiful rule of being able to do more with less effort. Okay, so number 2 is responsibility. I kind of hinted at it when I said, if something turns up at my doorstep like that, I need to take care of it. I can't just go, no, what's so inconvenient right now. But I was really baffled. I was baffled by the actual definition of responsibility. You want to hear it? I love this. Responsibility is the ability to have a creative response to the situation as it is now. So once I've accepted what is, the next thing is that I'm able to respond in a creative way rather than going back to autopilot and saying, oh, how do I always react when someone shouts at me? Oh, I get angry. Or, oh, I get sad, right? We actually take that breath and we say, ooh, what's going on here? If this is in my field, I'm part of it. How could I creatively respond to this now?
This is beautiful because if you look at things are either happening to you or happening for you. So that's actually what it's saying. It's happening for you. It's giving you an opportunity to grow, giving you an opportunity to rise above it. In quantum, we even go one step beyond that and say, I created this, maybe not consciously or unconsciously. So that's also taking responsibility. This is my creation. And my big question is, I only create to learn or to enjoy. So what am I learning, or what should I be enjoying right now?
I only create to learn and enjoy. We had a beautiful conversation about that last night, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were saying that joyful learning is the epiphany, isn't it?
That's the top way of creation.
Joyful learning.
Yeah.
I like that
that's
a lot.
The highest level.
A lot.
And so that's also a conscious process, is that if you're creating painful learning, you need to change your intention. You need to change what you're sending out, because part of you is saying that learning is difficult, learning is hard, learning should be painful. So that's an unconscious thought or belief that needs to be changed. And then we can send out a new thought. What if learning can be fun, enjoyable, and really...
The vortex is saying, but how do I change a belief? Well, that's going to take this out of this webinar right now, because that'll just be too much to explain. What we would like to tell you is it's simple. It's actually something you can repattern in your body and in your brain with very simple tools. We use tapping, we use breath work, we use all the things that have helped us and our clients to change beliefs, literally often in an instant, because it's just a realization. When you realize, oh, and you have a tool to make it integrate in your body, it's then so much easier to connect to that quantum field of unlimited possibilities. Because let's face it, the only ones limiting ourselves is us. It's the thoughts we think the whole time. It's where our focus is, which lenses we're wearing for our reality. Is everything half empty and desperate and in lack? Or are we able to see the good? And when I'm in the component of responsibility, I am saying everything that's happening is actually a blessing. That enemy, that friend, that foe, that teacher, they're all actually one, because they're part of me. And if I adopt the joyful learning, I can then move on to the third component. Do you want to hear that?
Now, one more thing that just shot into my mind is, if you look at our relationship, and I'm talking about intimate relation, anyone, but that's only, and it also applies to relationships. So, you know, when you struggle in your relationship and it's very painful, we go through periods where that absolutely
was in the past. Hell yeah.
Absolutely very, very painful. And you would come to the consensus, how can we make this a joyful learning? One thing we committed to is learning. Absolutely.
Growth, right? That was growth.
That was one thing. But now we're elevating our stuff. We say it has also to be joyful. And we're moving towards that space now where it becomes more joyful and it doesn't take away your energy so much. And I think we're getting there, and we still have a few little twitches to do.
Well, we're never done, honey, because we've got a whole lifetime.
But I mean, in just the learning process.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So in that moment of maybe stress, that moment of discomfort, that moment of learning, which will be a change, which the unconscious mind might not like, right? In that moment, if we say, okay, where's the opportunity? Why is this the best thing that could happen to me right now? Asking empowering questions, I feel, is a huge tool here that you can use. So ask yourself a good question, then you'll get a good answer. Give us another, give us an example of your favorite empowering question. There's so much energy here today. Right?
No, one of my favorite is I would say the concept of quantum self. The quantum self that I define as my wisest, most loving, most evolved, most actualized self. And my favorite question would be, first, what would my quantum self do in this situation? And then I would merge with my quantum self and come from that experiencing the quantum self in myself. And then the other thing I learned was also very impactful is, what if I'm looking at this situation with loving eyes instead of maybe judging eyes, angry eyes, triggered eyes? What if I can step into the loving eyes, looking at this, knowing that this is creating for my highest good and growth? So these are the questions that really make a big difference.
I love that, because it does feel so personal in that moment, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So it's not personal. However personal it feels, it is just not. It's just you did this to learn something, and you're now choosing to learn joyfully. So here, my favorite affirmation that you might like it as well is, I have the ability to respond creatively. I have the ability to respond creatively. You might want to write this down so that it really goes into your brain. And when I say write it down by hand, because you've got all those nerve endings running through your arm right into your brain. And it's scientifically proven that you'll remember it better when you write it in your own handwriting. So I have the ability to respond creatively. And this brings us to component number 3. Defenselessness. What?
That's a big one.
Defenselessness? Does this mean I need to just give up? And what does this mean? You want to have a go at it?
I want to have the first go. Yeah, sure. Now, first, number 1, when you're triggered, it's your reptilian brain in full action.
Tantrum.
And your reptilian brain is there, in fact, for survival reasons only. So the reptilian goes, should I attack? Should I run away? Should I freeze? And basically, we need to transcend the reptilian brain. We need to go to the frontal cortex. It's what we can call the eagle view, where you're looking. So we need to go and look at that from a different perspective, and not first going in that first primordial response of fight or flight. Or resist and whatever. So that's my first go at it.
I like that. I have the affirmation you want to write down here, if it appeals to you, is I will relinquish the need to convince others of my opinion. Because if you watch out, almost 99.9% of all people are just waiting for opportunities to voice their opinion.
Absolutely.
And to convince others that their reality is right. So where does that get us? Instead, we could be open to receive the best out of all realities and to be open to different points of view so that we can actually get the whole picture rather than just one angle of it. And a part of me, when I was reading up on this, was saying, like, this feels so vulnerable. What does that mean? I'm not allowed to defend myself anymore. But it's not that. It's giving up that need to be right, for instance. Haven't you also met situations and conversations with people where, if you're honest, you could see both parts, and you can say, you both are right. It's not about being right. It's about finding the best solution, the best option moving forward. Because quantum always, as energy and as wavelengths, we want to keep moving.
Absolutely.
If we stay stuck, it feels bad in our body. It feels bad in our brain. So we have to navigate this paradigm, which is a paradox, actually, that's telling us keep moving, but also get times of being still. So a word that I've just said that I would love you to either take out of your vocabulary or use about 99% less is the word but. In quantum, we're learning it's an and. You can be right, and I can be right, and you can be right, and you can be right, right? So I love kicking out the but and saying, let's try an and. Just try replacing it. And then I have a quote here. Okay. The present moment is a gift. We've heard that often. But here's what someone told me. The past is history. The future is mystery. And this moment is a gift. That's why it's called the present. So to gather our energy, to get all our focus in one bit, we have to stay in the present moment rather than reliving the painful past and worrying about a potentially dangerous future. In this present moment is where your energy is strongest. So that is why the law of this effortless creation works so well, because we're able to detach and delink from all those stories and really be in this present moment with our breath, with our energy. And if we then connect to the quantum field with elevated emotions, what happens?
Number 1, we are accessing our potential. That's I'm saying is the same here. We are now stepping into the unknown and the infinity of possibilities. There's no one. When we are reacting, when we're in defense, or when we're attacking, we are limited by our past. But the moment we stop and we open up, everything is possible. And that's where creation really happens in those moments. They don't happen from the past because we recreate the past. So it happens in the moment that you open up to new possibilities. And then, boom,
Open doors.
Open doors.
Open doors. You're just going to know which ones. And that's what we're going to be teaching you, and most of all, getting you to experience if you join us for the 4-day Quantum Voyage that we'll be broadcasting from Italy. Because, you know, all this theory, all the talk only does one bit. I feel we have something that our conscious mind needs to understand. This is how it works. This is how you are creating. That's one piece of the puzzle. Then we have that piece of saying, okay, which part of me is resisting this? Where do I keep repeating patterns that I no longer want to repeat? I want to be free of this, right? That's the work that I called, where we're so good at it. I'm just going to praise us because we're brilliant at knocking down unconscious sabotage.
Yes.
We've been doing that. You for 40 years, me for 20 years. And we can smell sabotage and help
meter,
and help ourselves and others really transform it. I think that's a huge gift. And then we have another gift. And if you agree with this, type yes in the comments. We're really good at channeling meditations and taking a large group or small group of people into that state of bliss, that state of connection where it's easy to attach and link into the quantum field, because that's where your magic happens. You know, I see us as the path bearers. So we're creating the path, but the ones walking it is everyone who's joining in. And in those moments of connection, when we guide those meditations and we have hundreds and hundreds of people tuning in with an open heart, with the highest vibrations, we've just seen miracles happen again and again and again and again. And we want to share that with you. We know that all it takes is for you to tune in and to have an open mind and say, you know what, I'm done with the suffering. I'm done with this painful struggling. I want an easier way. And that's what the Quantum Voyage is about.
Absolutely. And what's important is that the best investment you can ever do is in yourself. And we're not talking about money. We're just talking in general about
time.
How important it is, no more than ever. And you know, one person explained this to me in this way, that right now we're moving from information age into quantum age. Why do you think we are now having quantum computers? Because there's so much information. It's been doubling now. Every 2 months information doubles, so now we get more that we can search. So in this time they need quantum computers in order to be better in searching. But we have already an inbuilt quantum computer, which is our intuition. It's the moment of we connect. We don't need to be searching, because then we know, we get information right away. And tapping into your own quantum computer, your own wisdom, which brings you to a higher level, because then it brings you to you, and you are the essence of the love frequency. You are the bliss. You are already most perfect being that can be. It's the only veil is the body, because we identify with the body and
with our thoughts
and then our thoughts and then our past and all of that, and that takes us away from our super quantum computer, which we are in essence.
Yes.
And that's the time we're moving into. So what we see outside is a representation of what's happening also inside. So we're moving to more sustainable energy. Pay attention. The whole Earth has to, otherwise be self-destroyed. So what we're also letting you know, you're losing energy. It is not sustainable. When you keep living from the past, you're creating literally dis-ease. You're breaking your flow and stagnation. And we need to learn to connect to our essence. And that's that's quantum.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. Do you have any questions? We've thrown a lot at you, and in when we meet in, oh my goodness, there's so many. Here we go. We've got lots of yes, 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 yes. Dino is saying, I'm a beginning student. That's beautiful. You know, we're teaching this to children. I was just actually at a beautiful foundation called Open Doors here in Asheville, where I'm going to be teaching a workshop. I haven't told you that in January to children that are coming from under-resourced environments and environments from a lot of trauma. And I'm going to be able to teach them this emotional management, how to connect to the quantum field in person here in Asheville.
So cool.
I'm so happy. And this is what we want for you too. Not that you have to teach children, but that you can teach first yourself, and then your friends, your family, simple ways how to find that connection. We're seeing so many people on this planet right now getting lost in the buzz, getting lost in fear, in depression, in all kinds of mental illnesses, physical illnesses, and we want to do something about this. And we'd love you to join us there in this revolution of common people doing uncommon things, because we can. We've seen miracles happen again and again, and both of us have treated lost causes again and again, showing no, nobody's lost. It's a moment in time when you're ready for it, it'll just click for you. And yeah, I'm really excited about what we're up to right now.
and I think the person saying that they're just starting beginners, that's great, because you're still not confused by all the beliefs and all the stuff out there. The fresher you are, the better. That's why children are so beautiful to teach, because they still have not this preconceived reality that they box themselves into. So that the more open you are, the less beliefs you are, the better it is. And it's not so much about theory. It is all about practice. It's
experience. You need to feel it in your own body.
Right. And then what we are good at is giving people toolboxes so they can manage anything that comes in their path. And with the most important thing is, you need to know who you want to be. Yes. Who do you want to become? That is the true core of quantum. That person, any desire you may have, anything you would want to have in your life, the number one thing is, you get what is vibrating with who you are, not with what you wish for. So you change your vibration, you change again the tractor beam, and you bring things that you vibrate with. Yeah,
and you train your trajectory, and you change your destiny.
Absolutely. And that's what I love most, is everything is just about vibration. And you can break it down to simple pieces. It's not like, oh my God, we don't need to know all the quantum science just
to make it
we
work.
Need to understand the way we vibrate is the way we create.
A revolution it is. I'm not seeing any questions. What I love most about our live events is that there's so many people in one room tuning into high vibrations.
The collective power.
What we know, what we need for quantum manifestation is a clear intention. That's why Roy was saying you need to know who you want to become. You need to know, who is your quantum self? What do I want in life? What makes me happy? What would a joyful day look like, right? That's one part. A crystal clear intention. And then you need that sense of connection, right? You need to know, where am I going with this? And you need one more component, and that's where the body comes in. You need elevated emotions. You need feelings of pleasure and joy and peace and satisfaction and gratitude and compassion and all that stuff going on inside of your body, so you can open this beautiful vortex of your heart. That's the strongest energy center. And when we go into our hearts, because we're no longer tethered down by that painful past, then we're able to send out really powerful vibrations combined with a clear intention. Stuff starts happening in the moment, because you see, in quantum there is no time. Time only comes in if we're trying to push matter through this reality. But the moment we connect to quantum, it's there.
Absolutely.
How many times have you thought of someone and then the phone rings?
Oh, that's the easy one.
That's quantum.
But not even phone ringing. Just think of someone and sending a text, and the person is just like, wow, I was just thinking of you. So that's not right. There's one thing you said I just want to clarify for some people who do not, let's say, relate to a traumatic past or painful past, because sometimes your past looks like perfect. Some people don't. I know people said, I never had a trauma or whatever. But it's not only the trauma, it is a suffering caused by the programming. So what we're creating more of the stagnation, the resistance, the way of thinking. Today I was interviewing someone for the Quantum Mastery, and he said that his father always was saying, I'm living off the interest of my debt.
Okay.
So, and what he was facing is that he's good in manifesting, but he loses everything all the time. And so there were these little things that were determining in him his reality of creation. So that's create the pain and the suffering that's not needed. That's where there's a conflict in what you want and what you have and where you want to go and where you are. And that conflict is robbing your energy. And that's why it's so important what you said is make peace and become defenseless, accept, and then you have the energy available to create whatever you're going for. And that's what I love about quantum.
Yes. And it segues so beautifully into my next tip. And that is, you know how often we hear, you're too sensitive, you're too this, you're too that. We're encouraging you to be more sensitive to you. Because if you are so sensitive to your own state and then you have the tools to self-regulate, you will never go that deep that you have to struggle and fall and bang your head. You can actually notice the tiniest touches. So if people tell me, oh, I have absolutely no trauma, I'll say, really? That's so. Or are you just really good at numbing it out? Because, you know, trauma doesn't have to mean that we were beaten or abused. It can be tiny little things that have just conditioned our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, which is the biggest part of our brain, to see reality through certain filters. And we want to lift those veils for you so that you can actually see the bigger picture and see what amazing potential you have right there in you.
and you know what's really, really interesting? In Dutch, we have something called own wisdom.
Your own wisdom.
Your own wisdom. So the own wisdom normally comes from experience, but a lot of people are limited in their own wisdom because they can only look at their experience. And they are trying to explain for another person from their experience what this other person should be doing. So now it is your experience, it's not for them. So even your own lessons may not be the significant lesson for someone else. But when you tap into that oneness, what we call the higher wisdom of quantum, you're no longer separating yourself from the other person. And you're not coming from your own wisdom, you're coming from the true wisdom, the higher wisdom. And what you say then may be something you don't even know. So that's also the connection. And then when you can look at yourself from that higher wisdom, you're not looking with critical eyes, you're looking at yourself and just constantly giving yourself feedback how to improve. And that's different than the inner critic that a lot of people get confused with and stuff like that. That's quantum self.
Yes. And another thing that's come up in the question is, how is synchronicity linked to quantum? Well, remember how in quantum there's no time and there's no location. We're all wavelengths, you know, energy beaming throughout the cosmos. So when synchronicity happens, it's when quantum is at its best, right? It's when it's showing the instant proof of what you're sending out, you're manifesting right there. So do you want to say something about that?
Actually, I was caught off guard by Angelique, who says, you know, my son of 10 is my most awesome student and also my best teacher. Oh, yeah. And will you guys ever do a quantum voyage for kids?
Oh, I would love that. I would
you would
totally love that. Yes, find me a location, find me good marketing.
Yeah.
I want lots and lots of kids because
yeah. So we got a yes. Now we're going to make it happen. The vibration is out. That's going to make it happen. There is one for you, Paul. It says synchronicity is something
that's what I was just talking about. Do you want to say?
Oh, thank you.
I gave my answer there, and then you went to Angelique. So do you want to catch up on synchronicity?
Yeah, sure.
Give your take on it?
Okay. Sure. So I call it synchronology. Synchronology is how to create synchronicity. And the way to create synchronicity is to become the vibration of what you want. And I think that's what
you've got to vibe at the level of what you want.
Joe Dispenza is actually not talking about timelines, he's talking about vibrational match. So he's skipping the whole thing about timelines. He doesn't even mention it once.
No, so it says what, like a tuning fork, right? So you're tuning, you're vibrating at a certain level, and what's happening is you're tuning into something else that has that same vibrational level, and then boom, you come together. Yeah. That is synchronicity.
That's synchronicity. So you can create your own luck, basically. And Deepak Chopra called it synchrodestiny.
I like that.
Yeah. And I call it synchronology, the science of knowing how to match those vibrations. So it's all basically the same. It's vibrational match. I like that. It's like tuning forks. So that's beautiful.
You know what word I like best? I call it magic, because that's just my world then, right?
I call yours witchcraft.
Yeah, right. See how it all is coming together. And that, again, that is quantum. It's when there's so many ands. It's this and it's that and it's that and it's everything. One more point I want to get on before we sign off.
Sure.
This is, by the way, your invitation to join us in Italy. Live, or that means in person or on live stream. So we'll be dropping links in the comments. Be there and join us for Quantum Journeys, because that's when you get to tune in and manifest what you want. What I want to get on to now is, you said something about we're going outside of our box, right? And we're creating this quantum reality. Have you also noticed that there's so much fear around that often? It's a very unconscious fear because we think we want what we want. Mm-hmm. But why do you think, or what would be your take on why does so much resistance and fear come up? Often in those moments of a breakthrough, we're almost there. Mm-hmm. And then we'll shrink back into, oh no, it's not for me, it didn't work.
Yeah, actually, I think Nelson Mandela said it best when he did his inauguration thing, and based on Marianne Williamson. And so we have one side, and that's the ego side, where we are afraid of failure. But what truly scares us is our greatness. So a lot of people come very close, and then you're almost there, and you can already taste it, feel it, and then you just become overwhelmed.
You lose it.
Yeah, it had happened to me a couple of times because of seeing what's possible. You can smell it, but then you go, oh, and then you go back into your old resistance literature, stuff like that. Oh my God, can I handle this? Isn't it too big? Will I have a life?
Right, and just watch out what questions we ask in that moment, right? Exactly. So that's the moment of, instead of asking those kind of questions that you just mentioned, which we kind of all do at some point, we ask an empowering question. Why is this the biggest blessing?
Absolutely.
Why is this the greatest challenge for me right now that I will master? Empowering questions will shift your state, because here's the thing, when we're vibrating in fear and anger and sadness and shame and unworthiness and that, where are we vibrational? Down here. And then we're just going to attract more of that, right? But the problem is usually it's really hard in those moments to lift yourself up. Absolutely. So that's where I think the tapping and everything and the breaking of the pattern comes into use. And that's what we want to do with you again and again and again in 4 days, so that you really move through those processes rather than doing a jump and then going half a step back and then you go one again. It's so tedious. In quantum, results are instant. Absolutely. And that's what we want for you. So I hope you're feeling this in your heart, maybe a soft, warm feeling and a sort of, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I do deserve to be happy. Would you agree that could be interesting?
Well, the one thing in quantum, and this I'm happy you're saying about deserve and self-worth, is that doesn't exist. You see, it's vibration. There's nothing you need to deserve. If you vibrate with it, it's yours. Yes. If you don't vibrate with it, it's not yours. And then you can explain it. Oh, I have a low self-esteem, low self-worth.
My mother dropped me.
Yeah, whatever you.
Well, my mom didn't.
Yeah, but that's just a rationalization of not vibrating with that what you want. So there's nothing to be said about self-worth. It doesn't exist. You either vibrate or you don't. There's nothing. That's why some people are super rich and they have low self-esteem or whatever.
Well, they're unhappy in
but they're vibrating on that super being super rich. It's just a vibration. And the other thing was just a question about how many higher selves do we have? Is there one almighty or not? And I think that's a good question, also related to what is the difference in quantum self and higher self. So you need to understand the higher self is not you. When we talk from quantum, it is the field. It's the field of information. It's like having access to all the computers in the world, and you have a very good machine, a search engine to find the right answer in the right moment.
So what's the search engine, the higher self?
Now, the higher self is the cloud of all information, right? And then we have our divine essence. So where our
spark.
The spark. Right? And so, but the divine essence is not separated from everything else. So it's only in the body we think there's separation. So we think, my higher self, oh my God. No,
only mine.
It's not true. You're tapping into the quantum computer. And then you have the quantum self. The quantum self is from all possibilities that you can come up with. Which one is it that you want to be? So you're defining this for yourself. And the quantum self is your creation. That's where it starts, your creation of who you want to be. So you put in there all you want to put in, and that's your quantum self.
Well, that's actually where our ego helps us, right? Because with your ego, part of your ego is going to define who do I want to be.
Absolutely.
And you're choosing a spectrum of those possibilities. And depending on which is your favorite color of the rainbow spectrum, you're going to choose one essence until you discover, oh, I'm more than that. And then you get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's what this journey is about, don't you feel? It's connecting to that and discovering that potential again and again and again, so that whenever we choose to leave this planet, we can be our best selves.
Absolutely. And I think any choice you make in being a quantum self is always going to be a better choice than where you are right now. So that in itself gives you the motivation and the power to move forward. And can you change that? Of course you can.
You can change your orders on the way.
Yeah, you say, wow, I just discovered more of what's possible. Add it to the equation.
So I'm so glad you said that, because we were talking about that also the other day when I said, why is this happening? Why am I attracting these really, really serious cases right now? And then I said, I'm getting the link because I did actually send out that intention. I want to help children in a big way. I want to help those that are suffering most. So I need to also, we were talking this morning, redefine that intention so that I can make it even more effortless.
And more specific.
Yeah, and most impactful.
Exactly.
So,
good.
yeah,
I'm
really
nice.
happy.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too, my love. Nice talking to you.
All of you.
Please share this video with anyone who you think might be interested in creating a little happier, healthier, and more easeful life. I believe we deserve it all. You do too, right?
Absolutely.
And if we may be of assistance on your journey, we're here for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining. Mille baci, 1000 kysse. Please say something in Papiamento.
Hoppi sunci e abbraccio.
Nice. And can you say it in Dutch now?
Heel veel kusjes en liefs.
Oh, I like that. Alles Liebe von uns und wir freuen uns schon sehr auf euch. By the way, last little note. If your English is basic English and you can understand, but you maybe don't like speaking the language, you are so welcome to join us in Italy. You know how we are. You're going to experience most of it.
You can understand everything.
Your English is good enough, okay? So toss out that doubt, usher it out, and know that you will always know what you need to know.
Exactly. And we have a lot of assistance to help you, so you'll be fine.
Lots of people from all different parts of this world will be part of our beautiful Quantum Voyage.
Absolutely.
Here's to miracles,
ciao, ciao.
magic.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.